Hello, my name is Shelby Dupont, and this is my first oral exam. So first, I'm going to be explaining number one, and the first part of number one asks what a quantity is. And I guess the best way to explain a quantity would be just a number of something. So anything attached to a number or an amount is a quantity. So if I were to say like number of fingers I was holding up, that would be a quantity: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's lots of things you can measure quantity in, like length, height, width, volume, number of things. It's a pretty broad definition. Okay, next up, something that I have that is a quantity. A quantity on this note card would be the number of lines, which is 15. And this is a constant quantity because no matter what I do to this note card, the number of lines isn't going to change. There's also the length and the width, and these two are varying quantities because if I were to say fold this note card in half like that, the width would change. But if I were to fold it like this, the width would change. Length. They change either way. So that's how you can tell a fixed or varying quantity. If you can do something to the object that would make it change, make the quantity change, that makes it varying. But if no matter what you do, that quantity stays the same, then it's constant, like the number of lines. Let's see, something on here that is a that isn't a quantity would be if I just said corner. Not number of corners or a corner, but just the corner. That's not a quantity because it's not an amount. It's just a thing. So that is number one. Moving on, I'm going to be doing number 5, which starts off with asking what a formula is. Formula and expression. Yeah, a formula. So an example of a formula would be 2x equals y. And the number one thing you can tell, like if you see an equal sign, then automatically you know that that's a formula because, well, we'll get to that later. Next up, an example of an expression would just be 2x because there's no equal sign, there's no product of it. It's just expressing the expression. And what differs between a formula and an expression is a formula not only has an equal sign, but it expresses covariation between the part on the first side of the equal sign and the other side of the equal sign. So what that basically means is with the example 2 plus x equals y, if you change x, then y is going to have to change with it. So if you had x at 0, so 2 plus 0 would equal 2. But if you change that x to 2, then y would change to 4. So that basically means you can't change one without changing the other. All right, and lastly, we are going to do number 8, which asks us to define what a function is. So a function is basically, it's a form of a formula where you plug a number in and get something out of it. So what it means to define a function is to define each part of the function. So I have an example written down here. Oh no, it's backwards in the camera. Okay, well, this is f of x equals 2x plus 3. So basically that means f of x, I always think of it as f of x is the same thing as y because it's easier for me to think of it in an x and y axis kind of way. So f of x, you can just say that's equal to y, which is the output of the function, because if x is the input, that means since x is in the equation here, the rule 2x plus 3, when you input x, you're going to get y as your answer. And that's basically what makes it a formula, is having that f of x, or g of x, h of x, g of h of y, something like that. It tells you that that right there is the input, f of x, that whole thing, is the output. F is the name of the function, not f of x, not g of x, just f is the name of the function. And then the rule is what goes on the other side of the equal sign. So in this case, it is 2x plus 3. And that's it. That's my whole thing.